On February 27, 1996, the world's first ever Pokémon game was released by Game Freak and published by Nintendo, Pokémon Green. Later, Pokémon Red, Blue and Yellow would all be released and the first generation of Pokémon would be complete. Gen 1 will always hold a special place in my heart, specifically Red, because this is the game I started on and amazingly 16 years after I first played it, I am still playing Pokémon to this very day, just because of how much fun it is. Ever since those original games, there have been countless Pokémon releases in the main series, but there have also been a huge amount of beloved Pokémon spin-off games and Pokémon spin-off series, like the Pokémon Ranger and the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon series. I don't really know why I keep coming back to this series. I've just never really disliked a Pokémon main series game before. And then it had to all go to shit. Game Freak, you had to release a shitty game that held your hand, wiped your ass when you shite yourself, and tell you exactly what to do every second. And that's where I lost passion. And I stopped playing. But Noah, I hear you ask, why is the title called A Defensive Sword and Shield if you're just gonna shit talk it? I'm getting to that. Because I ain't talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm calling out Pokemon Sun and Moon for being the absolute worst games in the Pokemon main series. Just a disclaimer, this doesn't include Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon because I've never played those games. However, today's video is not about Pokemon Sun and Moon, as you rightfully pointed out. It is about defending Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, which are not bad games. So after playing this game for 33 hours and beating it after 25, I want to go down and talk about what I actually really like about these games. But first, what I dislike. Pokemon Sword and Shield are the best games since Black and White 2. Up until these games, I had not enjoyed a single 3D Pokemon game as much as I enjoyed the 2D ones. However, these games do have their flaws. The biggest being there is quite a lot of slowdown and quite often, and it gets annoying. The game isn't completely hindered by it, but it is kind of annoying and pulls you out of it every now and again. My second biggest issue with these games is there's not much post-game content. After beating the main story, you get a somewhat small post-game story, and then after that, there is nothing to do, other than catch every Pokemon and play the Battle Tower, which are personally things that I'm not a big fan of. If you compare this to Sinnoh, then yeah, there really isn't that much post-game content. Anyway, with the bad out of the way, let's talk about the good. For once, the story is actually quite interesting. You don't get a typical evil team, and that's actually quite nice, and it's a nice change and a breath of fresh air. It's also really cool to have the Pokemon Gym Challenge to be something a little more prestige than usual. I know Dynamaxing wasn't something that people liked when it was first shown off, myself included, but it really grew on me, and I can't lie, having two massive Pokemon in front of a cheering crowd is pretty damn cool. One of my favourite things about this game was the level curve and the game's pacing, because I really loved it. It took me 7 hours to get to the first gym. 7! How many Pokemon games are there that takes you that long? And I then beat the rest of the game in 25 hours and 27 minutes, post-game included. And while a lot of people might say, wow, you beat that quick, I was practically playing the game non-stop because I was sick the entire weekend I played it. So after 3 straight days of playing it, I beat the full thing. 25 hours of gameplay as well is a fair amount, and while it isn't the longest Pokemon game ever, that's only because the tedious stuff that comes with Pokemon have been removed, such as the heavy grinding to get to the right levels. Speaking of levels, the leveling curve in this game is really good. Having your Pokemon and the other trainers' Pokemon and the wild Pokemon be around level 45 at the 7th gym is so great, and something I've missed from Pokemon. Looking at Pokemon Crystal as a comparison, at the 7th gym then, Bryce's Pokemon are around level 30. Okay, hold on. I know people are going to argue that because Crystal has such a huge post-game, it doesn't matter. And while I don't necessarily disagree, the argument still has flaws because Blue's team only has a level 58 as the highest level. If the level curve was done differently, it could definitely have been around level 70 and at the perfect level to fight Red after. Okay, that's all I wanted to do in editing. Okay, bye. Level fucking 30 at the 7th gym. Whatever. Anyway, adding to this, I ended off the game with Pokemon at around the high 50s and the post-game content at around the mid 60s. Once again, this is a really good curve. Your Pokemon don't feel weak at the end of the game because they're not in the low 40s and instead feel almost competitive ready. Another reason why I like this game are the characters. For once, the characters in Pokemon had depth to them, and yes, I agree, Hop can be a little annoying at times, but he feels like a real person with goals. I actually felt a little bad beating him at the end because I wanted him to win the championship, not me. Leon and Sonia were cool, but I wasn't the most keen on them. However, a character I did really like would be Bede. 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 A character I did really like was Bede. When I first started Sword, I was thinking about how I actually kind of missed the shithead rivals that came with Pokemon, who were the most arrogant pieces of wank, because I kind of miss putting them in their place. Then Bede came along in this game and I was pretty happy with that. He was a cocky shithead, but he soon realised I was better. Next thing I love about this game... Okay, quick break. I know the pacing of this video is kind of weird, but there's a lot to talk about, and I don't want this video to last forever. Anyway, the next thing I love about this game is the wild area. Not only is it really cool having a massive area with tons of Pokemon, it's cool seeing Pokemon at different levels, which actually kind of makes sense lore-wise. Why would there only be the Pokemon around your level? But it also holds the Gigantamax raids, I fucking hate that name, which are pretty flippin' great, pardon my French. But of course, Game Freak and Nintendo are still pretty shit with online, so I have never matched with real fucking people. Fix that shit, Nintendo, come on. Straight up, these are not bad games, and while they may not be the most challenging thing in the world, that criticism just doesn't really make much sense, because there are plenty of ways to step up the difficulty yourself. Change battles to set and not shift, force yourself to use Pokemon you don't fully understand, don't use items in battle, or Nuzlocke it if you're still finding it too easy. This is a kid's game. It's not surprising it's going to be easier than previous iterations of Pokemon, because that's where Pokemon have been going for the past 5 or 6 years. X and Y, easy. ORAS, easy. Sun and Moon hold your pre-pubescent dick more than a TF2 player. Is that joke in bad taste? I feel like that joke in bad taste. Hey, don't worry, a lot of you guys are actually really cool. You don't like these games? Yeah, I get it. They're not for everyone. You want to boycott Game Freak? I completely understand. This is definitely the worst marketed Pokemon game to date. And with all that lying that Game Freak did as well, it's a little questionable sometimes. If you're on the fence about buying this game, I do recommend picking up. Personally, I'd consider it the best 3D Pokemon game and the most fun Pokemon game since Black and White 2. But I'm not you. Anyway, this has been a Defense of Sword.